Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Tracy?
Good. Very busy day here today. I did a new owners class and I had 5 ladies here.
Awesome.
And among a host of other things, I got to, what's that word? Christen them all with manual mode.
Yes.
They were, the joy I get out of watching people discover how smooth and that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're
It's a
all like,
beautiful. It's a
"Oh,
beautiful.
I love it so much," and I'm helping them get their speed, to match them or whatever. And I save that till the very end of the day, and they all left very happy. So
Good.
it was a good day. Yeah.
I always say as a rental program though, I did not like manual mode, and we'd go running across this because the people are working from the back side of the machine and they didn't know the rhythm, right? They didn't know the rhythm, and so that usually meant for sure big stitches. So we would go running across when we had the old mushroom handles of the Millies, the old mushroom handles.
Oh, right. Yeah. And they hadn't engaged the stitch regulator.
Well, they usually would control green, but then they'd do blue. Oh, wait, control blue. And then that in between, then it's just manual mode, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a new upgrade. I love the upgrade of the toggle switches. And then this, I love that upgrade was beautiful on our machines.
Yeah. You know what? As much as I love, the handles are amazing. When I get an old machine in to service, I cannot wait to get that sucker on the 7-foot frame to test it. And I just go to town. I'll quilt for hours testing. I love the mushroom. I love the mushroom handles, the clutch on both sides and the buttons. And I miss that. I had my first APQS machine was a 2012. So they were white. That was the year they started, they changed them to white, but we still had the mushroom handles till the following year. So I had a white one with mushroom handles. And I tell you, I loved that. I still kick myself for selling that machine, but I love those mushroom handles. Not rental program friendly, but for when you owned one.
Right. When you have that relationship with that machine, right? That relationship is
it's like driving a manual car or a manual truck or a motorcycle. You're flipping gears and you're involved. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I loved working on them as well. It's just as us that sound can either be a very happy sound, and most of the time when it was me just working on it was a very happy sound, or just because of my renters, it was just another the mushroom handles. You already have somebody who's just learning the machine and already nervous, and it was just a sensory overload, I felt.
Oh yeah, no, the machines only keep getting better, right? And the leaps and bounds just in the 10, 11 years that I've been with APQS, the machines just keep getting better and everything just keeps getting more streamlined, and it's awesome. But I still have a love for old Millie with those mushroom handles.
We were just discussing the longevity of APQS machines. And
they don't die.
Huh?
They don't die.
We still have an Ultima one, the first generation out there sewing.
Yeah.
I mean, many of them. I just saw one for sale because I was helping one of my customers that came in for our roadshow. We were talking trade-in versus selling, right? And I was showing her some places to look for selling them online and things like that. And I'm like, wow, look, there's an Ultima one.
I've serviced several Ultimate ones. People have bought them on Kijiji for, a pretty good price. And then they bring them to me and I give them a service. And those things are running like brand new.
We should probably verify and explain what an Ultima One is to our people who are listening. It's a very basic machine, no stitch regulator, on off, right?
And super old, like before the stitch regulator was even invented. These APQS machines are very old, and they're still out there running like nobody's business.
Right. I mean, Jake was amazed when he went back to training and they showed him the original Ultima one with no circuit boards, just wires.
Oh, that great big one that's in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that one. I was there in 2015. I remember, or not 2015. When did I take my certified training? 2016? 16, I think I did. Yeah, and I saw that machine at head office. A great big huge one, you mean?
Well, no, there's that great big huge one was more used for, we're talking the throat space on that had to have been 40, 50 inches because it was a mattress factory kind of one.
Yeah.
But there was one in the back room, I think that it was all just wires and no circuit boards inside the throat of the machine when you're looking in the wire. So it was like it's going to last forever because there's no circuit boards.
Yeah. Yeah. They're amazing machines. They're amazing. And becoming a certified technician only made me appreciate them even more.
Right.
It's, the thought of how every single thing has to work, like the precision of and how fast they go and the needles and everything is working all in complete perfect tandem to make all those perfect stitches is fascinating.
Well,
and impressive.
Right. So when we first bought I think we're changing our topic, by the way.
I can get back onto the topic. It's okay.
No, you're good. I think this is even better, actually.
So loving all over the machines. It's okay.
Yeah. When Jacob first learned, when he went back to Janome for certification, they sat down and they set a nice new machine in front of him, right? And he didn't know any better. And he learned a whole lot of stuff when he was back there at Janome. It was a fabulous class. Then he went to, so when we did our training, I did the selling part, and then I got in the car and he got in the car and we crossed paths, and then he took over for the second part and was in Des Moines for the maintenance part of it, right? So he did the maintenance part, and he gets back from after that maintenance, and he's like, I want to go back to Janome and say, I want broken machines in front of me and to make me fix them, not beautiful, pristine machines. Because he goes, I learned so much. So that's something to talk about, I think, when you bring at least for us, when you bring a machine in on the APQS side of things, we have gone through training. So you and I and Jacob and Angela are the certified techs where they break a machine and you have to fix it, right?
It's part of the check training, yeah. On the last day, after you've taken the whole week of all the things, and then they send you out for lunch or an early lunch or a late breakfast or something, and when you come back, it is a nightmare. And like some stuff is super sneaky and really hard to diagnose, and other stuff is like pretty obvious. But you get a complete broken, beat up, poor, sad, on its last legs because they've tried to kill it. And then we put it all back together and make it purr like a kitten. And then we pass because we did it all good.
Right. Oh, I just thought it was.
We learned and we knew what we were doing. So we're allowed to work on machines.
Right. It was interesting because I went back with one of our other employees, and we sat next to each other, obviously, during most of the training. And then when we come back in, they had us all sit in different places for good reasons. Right. And then no talking to each other for good reasons. Right. And
not even allowed to look over at somebody else.
Right. But I do think the scariest part was carrying it into the back room and checking my tension with Don Cavanaugh right there.
And then they test drive it and you're standing there like, please let me have done it right. Please let me have done it right. Please let me have done it right. Please not have, did I get the timing right? Did I get the needle depth perfect? Did I get all this? Did I get all that? And everything else.
So I find that class was, Jacob walked back and he had such a glorious time. And then when I went a year or two later, it was just a lot of fun knowing what I was I knew what I was walking into. It was kind of interesting after. I'm so glad I broke it up a little bit, kind of like when I'm learning Quilt Path. I like to break up some of the education a little bit at a time, like you do with the new owners class, a little bit at a time, not everything all at once kind of stuff.
Yeah. I found that today too. I mean, I had 5 wonderful smart, you know, and as the day went on, morning is all maintenance, and then the afternoon we talk about, I hijack their lunch. They're not even allowed to go anywhere for lunch. We talk about needle sizes and threads and battings and tension and just what you'd use where and all that kind of stuff, and just it's hammering and hammering. And then I look over at one, her name's Kim, and she was looking a little glassy eyed. I said, "Is this too much? Are you okay?" She goes, "No, I'm okay. I need to stand." I said, "Well, stand." So she stood up. I said, "Do you want to play on the machine?" She said, "Yeah, that would be good." So we just stopped, and I got everybody on the machines, and you know what I mean? Because sometimes there's so much, and you know, as from a teacher's point, I want to share so much with them, and I only have I have the whole day, but it's like, oh, and this, oh, and that, and that, and sometimes I forget they're trying to absorb all this stuff I'm vomiting at them, you know?
Right. And I call it fire hosing.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a little bit better. We didn't get to rulers today because we got so caught up with topics, you know, with the thread topic and other things. And that's fine. That's an extra thing. And I teach a boot camp class, and we could do that. But yeah, once the maintenance portion of it is over, and I know that they're all very comfortable with where all their stuff is, like, you know, what all their parts are, what everything does, when to check it, what to do with it, and all that kind of stuff. I let the afternoon be I just try to give them as much as I can without, I want everybody leaving excited to go home and play with their machines, not dragging themselves like they can't even say their names because it's too much.
Right. Well, and that's just the thing too, is like some of that will all come back. Oh, I remember this now. Oh, I remember this now. Like, I mean, we give them at least we didn't all learn our ABCs all at one time. I think we started pretty little, like when we're, you know, babies, and the multiplication tables, how long they took for us to learn, you know. I think the machines are the same kind of thing. We get this, and it's that relationship, right?
Yeah. But now at least they've got the foundation that when things happen, it's like, oh, wait a minute. I think we covered that I think I remember her saying something, and then, I mean, I'm always telling them, just call me.
Yeah.
Call me. I don't know if you're struggling, call me and I'll help you.
Right.
It doesn't mean you didn't earn it because you asked a question.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because, you know, I've got a couple of people, I like to just muddle through on my own, you know. It's like, okay, that's cool. I completely understand that. Right. I suck at asking for help. But also, you know, a 5-minute video call or a text back and forth could save you hours of frustration. Let me do that for you.
Right. Right. And I think all of us as dealers, I feel like a lot of the dealers that I talk to and people in the quilting world, we just want everybody using whatever machine that they have. I just want them using it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's because otherwise, why is it there?
Right. Exactly. Not to be afraid of it. So I've gotten to the point where I like to use obviously self-deprecating humor, and having those 16-year-old girls at home, my twin girls at home. I'm like, I think the computer and sometimes even the machine is like a 16-year-old girl. She thinks she knows what it is what's right. And we need to tell them, no, this is the way it is. We're the adult. We get to say, not today.
Yeah, no, this is how it's going to work. We're going to quilt a quilt today.
Yes, we are. And it's just a straight stitch machine. And once you start getting down into the basics of that, I think that is a good thing, don't you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, they're extremely impressive machines, but at the end of the day, you're right. There's no fancy stitches. There's no feed dogs. There's no million things you need to do to set something up to make something work. You know, not like an embroidery machine or anything. You just push the button and go.
Right. Which is probably against all of because all of the machines now are, I mean, our biggest machine that we just got that is just the biggest hoop in the industry, and an 13-inch throat. All of the stuff that comes with it is like boxes upon boxes, right? And here we got this beautiful machine that just tends to purr, like you said, purr like a kitten, get going, just stitch right away, and it does what it does. It just right out of the chute does what it does.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. They were good.
Awesome.
I'm happy with them all. They're all happy. They're excited. I got a couple coming back for a quilt pass day because we don't do the quilt pass. Not everybody in class has a quilt pass, so I don't do quilt pass when I do my new owners class. So I'll have those 3 ladies back, or 4 actually, those 4 ladies back another day, and we will just play with quilt pass on that day.
Right. Now, funny thing is on that, I do go over paper pantograph with everybody, even if they do have a computer. Yep. I do talk about paper pantograph, even if they have the computer.
Yeah. Well, because that might happen one day. So for whatever reason, you know what I mean? So they should know at least how to set it up and how to move your laser light around and all that kind of stuff, for sure.
I don't know about you, but I'm either custom quilting or I'm edge to edge quilting with the computer, right? And the other day we had this beautiful lady that used to live in the area. She's now moved in with her son back in Virginia, but she came in and rent, but then she got to the point where she couldn't rent anymore. So she would bring in her quilt with the pantograph, her paper pantograph, and say, I want this on it. And so we would quilt it. And the other day we were getting behind. So I sat in there and I just did it myself. And I'm like, my brain shut off. For the first time when I was quilting, it was just the hum of the machine, and the paper pantograph was so much fun. Like this in between here was quiet because I was just following the line. There was no thinking. There was none of that. Just move.
It's almost a little like what is that? Like ASMR almost. Even when I gave them my speech about manual mode, I gave them the speech, and I've got this video on YouTube. You can go watch it. It's a little old, but it's all still the same information, whatever. You can go watch that. But, and I went into this little thing and I turned the machine on. And as I started stitching, I heard the one lady say, oh, listen to it purr. Because it's just, you know,
right. Smooth.
And they all felt that today. And none of them had ever stitched without or quilted without a stitch regulator. So they all had that, and they all said the same thing. Oh my gosh, it's like you just kind of go,
right.
And you just get lost in the shapes that you're making. And it doesn't matter what shapes they are. It doesn't matter if they're pretty or they're not. It doesn't matter. It's the sound of and the feeling and just the movement. And it just sort of takes your brain and just
quiets it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't care. It sounds hokey, but it's magical. I don't care what anybody says. It just is.
Well, I was just talking about the Georges, the sit-down machines, and everybody always is like, I feel like in the industry, everybody wants a stitch. Everybody who thinks they need a free motion quilt needs a stitch regulator. Like you have to have a stitch regulator, right? Kind of thing. Yeah. I'm like, well, you're going to become your own stitch regulator, especially in a sit-down situation, because you're going to outgrow the stitch regulator. You're going to move a little bit faster than what it can handle. And sometimes, just depending on what type of stitch regulator it is, it's reading fabric, and some fabric is hard to read. And sometimes the stitch regulator doesn't work as well because it's having a hard time reading that fabric, right? What's on it. So you got that stitch, you got the stitch regulator here, and you got the fabric moving over it. And it's hard sometimes for some fabrics, just depending on what they are, for that stitch regulator to actually, because it's like an eye of a mouse almost to read.
Oh, okay. I have zero knowledge, experience, or understanding of how a sit-down regulator works because I've never been near a domestic machine or a large throat sit-down machine because George never had one.
Right.
So I've never even thought about how that mechanism works. So it's like a mouse eye.
Pretty much, if you think about it.
It's reading that it's moving.
Just like our stitch regulators, there's something measuring the movement of the machine, so it knows to put down X number of stitches per inch, right?
Right, but we're moving our machines, which is moving our encoders, and nothing in the machine is moving. You're just moving something across it, so it's registering the movement of that.
Yes.
Oh, turn it off. Just Be your own stitch regulator. Just do it.
But it's getting that fear and that comfort that you're going to outgrow. This is training wheels. You're going to outgrow it and it's going to be fabulous, right? It's a training wheel kind of situation.
Yeah.
And maybe when you need it because you're just brain dead and you have to get through this quilt and you've been on it for a couple hours, maybe I could see that being there, but
yeah. If I ever have an opportunity around a machine like that, I'll try it. But I just never thought about it. Like, you know what I mean? It's just never been, but I'm not around domestic machines. So, but it's cool to know. I should probably know how that works.
Well, something has to be measured for the needle to go up and down X number of whatever.
Well, yeah. And it's never been sort of a thing that I would even think about because I don't quilt that way. And I was fine on the George. And when I did free motion quilt way back, like before my long arm days, when I was free motion quilting on my domestic machine, I had a Janome 6500, which I'm not that bright on the best of days. I sold that machine. And as that woman was leaving my driveway, this voice was like, why did you do that? That was dumb. And I instantly regretted it, but it was too late. So I have two Elna 7200s. And I still have my Janome 1600.
Good.
So those are the machines that I have. And when I did do some free motion on those, there's no regulator on those. So
no, it's just an interesting tool that sometimes I think, like what we talked about with rulers can kind of limit you on what you can do, right? Free motion wise. Again, I think the stitch regulator can limit you a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, well, and I demonstrated to them too. Okay, watch. And I put the stitch and listen, I am not bashing the stitch regulator. I've been accused of stitch regulator bashing in the past. I'm not bashing it. I just love manual mode so much that anytime I get to use that, I use that. But our stitch regulators are amazing and they are wonderful tools to use. I use them when I'm ruler work, stitching in the ditch, anything where I need that, right?
Right.
But for me, for free motion quilting, if I've got the regulator on, and I'm talking about one of the machines without the quilt glide feature, just that the sound of the machine speeding up and slowing down with me makes me want to move that way, if that makes sense. Like it makes me want to move like zoom, zoom, zoom.
Right.
And I don't naturally move that way. So when the regulator comes off and you just have that hum, I feel like I move more fluidly, if that makes any sense. But I am absolutely 100% not bashing our stitch regulator. We have the best stitch regulator on the market, I might say.
Right. Or anybody who uses stitch regulator mode. There's perfectly good reasons both. And it's just like that.
Absolutely.
It's that the whole debate. Do you press your seams open or do you press them to the side? And I say, okay.
It's what works for you.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And that's all we're talking about. Just to try different things. That's all we want is just like I said, during my new owner's class, I got people with computers, but I teach them paper pantograph just because it's a good thing to know.